Hi. Okay, there we go. Is everyone good? Ready for some SEO? Yeah, that good, right? So, hello everyone, my name's Dave and I'm in SEO. Because of that, I view Google quite differently to most normal people. But I get why most of you, I'm guessing, don't actually get around to doing SEO. So I've got a simple formula, which is, if you take something that's boring, non-urgent, time-consuming, unlikely to work, you throw in the adrenaline rush that it might actually blow up in your face and leave you worse than when you started. What we're left with is something that's just never going to happen, right? We all have enough things to do. We're not looking for new ideas. My goal for this talk, a little bit ambitious, is to eliminate all these reservations you might have about SEO. So I'm going to make sure it doesn't blow up in your face. I guarantee it will work, kind of. It's going to be very time effective, and because of this, it's going to become more important. It's going to work its way up your list of priorities. So what we're left with is something that's effective, quick, and easy, and you have to do it. The boring bit, there's nothing much I can do about. Now, believe it or not, I've got 170 more slides to get through. So the speed of delivery is going to be intense, but the good news is you don't have to write a single thing down. At the end of my talk, I'm going to give you a URL that has all the strategies, all the tips, the step-by-step instructions, a link to the tools I talk about, everything. So for now, sit back and just enjoy the ride. Take on the principles more than the specifics. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Collins, hello, from Software Promotions. I have been doing SEO since 1997. I know, I look young. Been doing SEO since 1997. We worked with almost 600 businesses all over the world. Despite that, so far, at least in my mind, I am not quite yet a dinosaur. But if you want to see what 20 plus years of SEO does to you, this is what I looked like when I started, and this is a particularly good, flattering picture of me today. It takes its toll. You can probably tell from the accent, I am in fact British, so this sort of image is of course terribly exciting. True to MicroConf tradition, I don't know if people still do this, but I'm going to do it. My significant achievements in life are my two children, Esther and Edwin, who like many children of their age are slightly insane. That's all the personal stuff. Let's get started. So, at some point, I'm pretty sure almost everyone in the room has heard someone saying that SEO is dead. Whether it's on a podcast, you read in a blog post, someone standing on the stage, you've heard it before, right? So usually when someone says SEO is dead, what they mean is they tried it and it didn't work, or they never get around to doing it. And sometimes it's just that people like making controversial statements. I mean, this is the era that truth is open to interpretation, right? The fact is, when someone says that SEO is dead, whatever the reason, they're wrong. It's that simple. And you as business owners, if you're going to believe it when people tell you that SEO is dead, it's potentially damaging, dangerous advice that can actually hurt your business. So this is something that people like to give as an example. I search for places to visit in Vegas. 4 ads at the top, Google scraped information all over, 1 organic listing at the bottom, at least without scrolling down the page. But that shows almost an ignorance of what SEO is about, because aside from the ads, all the other information on the page is either organic or it's powered by organic. Search for Get Married in Vegas at lunch. It's either organic or it's powered by organic. But the fact is, they don't always get it right. Google don't always get it right. And this is the real secret of SEO. So for a different conference a year or so ago, I searched for where to buy euros, and Google gave me information on exchange rates, a link to Euro car parts, which I still don't know what it is. This is the real secret of SEO, that actually Google don't always get it right, and they actually need our help. And ultimately, this machine that powers the Google organic listings, it's a system. And you, of all people, know that any system can be tweaked, optimized, steered a little bit, and work to your advantage. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Before that, the fun stuff, we need a little bit of background. We need a very, very short history of SEO. which of course everyone's wildly enthusiastic at the speaker giving a history lesson about such a dynamic topic as SEO, right? And I get MicroConf, I get what you're about, I am part of you. You want the actionable stuff, right? You don't want all the theory. And I understand that, but sometimes the foundations are really important. Sometimes the foundations are so important because everything else gets built up on top of them. Up to a point, I think I'd go as far as saying that the theories that underpin the strategies that I'm going to share with you are actually more important than the strategies themselves. So back in '97, when I started my glorious career as an SEO, there was a lot of text. We all had very big modems that connected at very slow speeds. So the web, to all intents and purposes, was text-based. There were a few images, very compressed, no audio, no video, no streaming. All that was yet to happen. As the web grew, there was a lot more text, and then more text, and then more text. Now, during the talk, I want to plant three different seeds that I'm going to plant with you, ideas. These are seeds. The idea is you take these seeds, you take these ideas, and you put them somewhere dark and moist, badly thought out. You put the seeds somewhere where they will grow. Let's leave it at that. I should rehearse a little bit. So here's the first seed. To all intents, we're very used to Google. We more or less worship Google. We take them for granted. A few generations ago, people started using Google as a verb. My children today, they kind of know what Google is, but they don't go to Google to find their information, even though they do. It's all through Chrome, through the browser. It's become a part of our online life. So I had this idea. Can you imagine if we had to pay a small nominal amount for every search that we carried out? Say 5 cents, 10 cents. How happy would we be with the results that we actually got? So I decided to run a few little experiments. You've got to make SEO interesting somehow. What I did it in Google Images because it's visual and it's a whole lot easier for me. So I started with a one-level search. I carried out a search for dog. And in the 25, 30 pictures I can see there, they're all dogs, right? Then we modified search a little bit, went for Jack Russell. Sure enough, they're all Jack Russell. Google are pretty good so far. Then we had a two-level search where it's Jack Russell smiling. And for the most part, Google kind of get it. I'm not sure about the one right of center. Not sure how friendly a smile that is, but for the most part, they're there. Now, at 3 levels, it starts to get a bit interesting. I changed it to black and white, Jack Russell smiling. So here we got a little issue with context, because Google don't know, am I searching for a black and white picture of a Jack Russell smiling, or a black and white Jack Russell that happens to be smiling? And what's interesting for me is that when they start to lose their grasp, it starts to slide pretty quickly. And already we get a few things that are in there. I'm no expert, but that's no Jack Russell. When we go to a 4-level search, Google completely lose it. So I changed the search to black and white, Jack Russell smiling next to a baby. Now, it's almost like they have this sphere, this dome of their expertise. And once you break through the barrier of the dome, they really don't know what they're doing. And most of these images fail to qualify more than, I'd say, 1 or 2 of the criteria at the most. And as people, we can see these images don't make sense. The only 2 images that had anything remotely close to a baby were these 2, was a small boy and a pregnant woman, which isn't close. Now, this is the first idea to want to plant with you, that sometimes when they go beyond their dome of expertise, they lose it a little bit and they need a little bit more help. Instead of this great genius system, it's a little bit more like a developing child, complete with tantrums. As an aside, that's my Jack Russell, lucky, smiling. Aaron, who some of you know who I work with, I love that picture because the love that's flown from Aaron to the dog is just fantastic. Okay, that's my reminder to go faster. So you know that great thing when you can drag an image onto Google and it shows you other sites that use this image, that sort of thing. So I carried out an experiment using this image on the bottom right. This is an image that I use on my social media profiles, most of them, certainly Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google+. So I dragged that image onto Google Images. First thing Google tell me is, best guess for this image, Dave Collins. Well, wow. They have a Google+ account. belonging to someone called Dave Collins, and they have that precise image. There's nothing amazing about that. It's at the bottom where I think it starts getting interesting, when they go to visually similar images. Now, these are not people that look like me. But these are images that Google have decided, whatever criteria they're using, these are visually similar. But a few of them started to jump out a little bit. And as people, we can see, even with reasonable level of eyesight, we can see that the image on the left really doesn't look like the image on the right. But a lot of it's about context, and technically this is some pretty advanced stuff that Google are doing here. But then I noticed something a little bit interesting, to me at least. These are the images that are supposed to be visually similar to the image on the top left. Some of them started to look familiar. Earlier in the presentation, I was going to have a different slide for who is Dave Collins. And what I noticed is that 4 of these images, at least 4 of them, are we in sync? Yeah. 4 of these images were actually shown as visually similar. Now, these are images that Google don't know from the image this is a person called Dave Collins. This is information on the page. It's the page title, it's the alt tags, the image titles, all this sort of stuff. So despite Google's claim of being visually similar, it's all about text. Again, there's a little bit of sleight of hand going on there. Now, I get this stuff is hard. I do. It's easy for me to stand on a stage and poke a stick at Google. You could also argue no one's ever paid someone like me to optimize their content for black and white Jack Russell smiling next to a baby, so far. But this is Google, and they're supposed to be able to figure this sort of stuff out. And this just reinforces this idea that I keep coming across, that Google sometimes need our help. And for everything that's changed in the last 20 years or so, the actual principles of SEO, the core fundamentals of SEO haven't actually changed at all. And that's always been that Google need our help. It is a two-way relationship. Even though it feels like we don't have a say, it feels like we are the less powerful in the partnership, it's a partnership. Google invests a lot of time, a lot of money, resources into SEO. They've got countless different resources. They've got the Search Console. I've no idea how big the dev team is, but it's impressive. They've got a starter guide. They promote events. They attend events. They sponsor events. But the flip side of having a two-way relationship with Google is Google actually know a fair amount of stuff about us, maybe a little bit more than you're realizing. And this is the second seed to plant somewhere. This is second idea. This is an underestimated idea in SEO, I think, and it's all about signals. So imagine today or last night at the reception, you meet someone for the first time. Rightly or wrongly, you're going to base an initial impression based on what you see, how someone holds themselves, what they're wearing, do they smell nice, do they look clean. If you hire an SEO and the first person for the interview comes in like that with a cigarette in his mouth and his thumbs up, apologies if someone in the audience looks exactly like that. But probably you're not going to have an overly favorable impression of that person. If you go looking for a website designer and you come across a page that looks like this, you might not have my Rain Man tendencies, so you might not spot there's 14 occurrences of the phrase website design. But even if you don't even consciously pick up on the fact that there is a lot of repetition, it doesn't read right, it doesn't sound right. And you can bet that Google are looking for this sort of information as well. If you have bland, pointless statements like websites are becoming more and more common every day. If you have copyright that has been updated in 5 years, a blog that hasn't been updated in 3 years, if you go to your Search Console and you have 4 million server errors, 90 million not found errors, how do you think Google are going to feel about that? They're obviously not going to be remotely impressed. Signals is massively important and seriously underestimated. Okay, as promised, that's all the theory. Now we roll up our sleeves, and now I'm going to show you how to do this stuff. A quick reminder for me to get moving. Okay, what I've got a series of tasks that anyone can carry out, and these are among the tasks, SEO tasks, that I think deliver the best value. Really quick, easy, low-hanging fruit, as you Americans like to say, I think. Low-hanging fruit? Low-hanging fruit. Okay, what I've done, I've got a series of tasks, and underneath the tasks, I've sort of broken them down into a series of steps. So first task is to fix the machine. What I mean by this is your website might look great in the browser. It looks beautiful, and every time you look at it, you get that little kind of like having a child that you only need to interact with through a browser. And you get that swell of pride, but if you pop the bonnet on your website and it's rusted away, there's small details like the engine missing, this is really bad. It's really bad for users, it's really bad for SEO. Fortunately, Google make it really easy to find these problems. And you can find them in the Search Console. It used to be Webmaster Tools, but Google renamed it. If you've used Search Console, you know it shares the same problem as Analytics in that you get overloaded by information. There's loads of stuff in there. It's really easy to spend 10, 20 minutes in there, walk away with nothing. So I want to show you the 4 most important parts of the Search Console that you need to be checking on a pretty regular basis. Again, don't need to write it down, it's all in the URL at the end. These are the crawl errors, HTML improvements, index status, and security issues. Crawl errors, you get what this is about, so I'm only going to skim over this. It's anything that Google find that causes a problem, most common being a 404. If it's bad for Google and the SEO, it's bad for visitors, which is, of course, bad for you. They give you all the details, you click on it, you find more information. It's a great resource. Next, we've got HTML improvements. This is massively underestimated. See this text at the top? Addressing the following may help your site's user experience and performance. If you go to Google's SEO starter guide, they define SEO as anything that could have a notable impact on your site's user experience and performance. So this is Google saying to you, addressing the following may help your site's SEO. Absolutely ignore that at your peril. Then we've got the index status. This is a real quick and easy one. What you do is you select all the boxes and you make sure everything makes sense. If you think, well, we've got about 4,200 pages, Google are indexing almost 4,000, that's good. If you look at the block by robots and say 60, it should be 4 or 5 pages at the most. Find out why, find out what's being blocked. So really quick and easy diagnostic. Security issues should always look like this. Currently, we haven't detected any security issues. If you have a part on your website that is infected by malware, by spyware, ransomware, viruses, whatever, Google are going to pull you pretty quickly. Not to punish you, not to penalize you, because this is bad for their users. So again, this is the one part of your Search Console, I think, where if there's an issue there, this is the only part that you stop everything and fix it immediately. Really looking for anything that throws a spanner in the works. Okay, second task is to invest the time in keywords. Don't switch off at this point. Don't check your email, because we've all heard SEOs at some point talk about keywords, but they're really, really important and they're really easy to overlook and vanish into the background somehow. So here's a really simple approach. Let's say you wanted to optimize a page or a blog post on your website. Start with, imagine how would your friend describe the page. The caveat being we all have friends and friends, so think about asking the right friend. You could even ask one of your friends, how would you actually describe it? Lucky friend. Second step, once you've got this list of ideas, phrases, keywords, run them through Google to make sure, does this make sense? Would we expect to see our content in this list, or is it something completely different? The third step is always to use tools, not imagination. Now, a really common mistake is that people think they know their audience, they get their customers and their potential customers. So because of that, they also get the language they're going to use when it comes to trying to find their product. And they're wrong. No matter how well you know them, you're wrong. You don't know what it is that they're searching for. So I'm going to illustrate it with a little example, get people moving a little bit. Imagine you become part of the MicroConf team and you go home, and one of the first things you do is you're going to optimize microconf.com, the main page, for one of the following phrases. Who would choose to optimize conference for startups? Quick show of hands. Okay, very few. Entrepreneurial conference? No one? Entrepreneur conference? Most of you are either asleep or your hands aren't quite making it. Well, what I did, I ran these 3 terms through tools that we'll look at later, Ahrefs. And what I find from there is that the monthly search volume, entrepreneurial conference that no one would choose to optimize, gets triple the volume of searches than entrepreneur conference. And pretty much no one's searching for conference for startups. It's counterintuitive. You can't guess these things unless you actually use a decent tool, do the research. So you know it's a trick, right? So here's another example. Imagine you decide you're so inspired by SEO, you're going to become an SEO when you get home. Be like me, because that's a goal. Which of these keywords would you optimize this page on your website for? Who would choose to optimize it for SEO service? No, 2 people. SEO services? What, 8, 9, 10 people? SEO training? It seems to be most. SEO is dead? What am I doing up here? I flew over from the UK for this. So I ran these keywords through the same tool, and what we find is that SEO services gets around 6 times the volume of searches than SEO service, which you kind of get why. You're not searching for services, but the point is, the takeaway point is you have to use the tool. You cannot think that you know the language that people are going to use. 4th step, once you've got your keywords, is to use them wisely. So I carried out a search back in England for SEO Service London. Now the ads that are on the top, I think they're pretty good. From a marketing point of view, they've got great benefits. They've got UK Digital Agency of the Year, 12 years experience, got pricing information, specialists in SEO strategies. Ironically, the organic listings underneath are awful. The first one says SEO Services London, name of the agency, and all the others are variations of SEO Service London, pipe, SEO Company London, pipe, SEO London. They're awful. You have control up to a point how these listings appear with the page title. And guess what happens when you have a title that's more compelling for people to click on them? People click on them. And Moz, Rand Fishkin from Moz carried out an experiment a few years ago where he got people to carry out search and click on a link for their test page, and sure enough, it started to rise up in the rankings. So click-through rate absolutely matters for SEO too. 3rd task, content. So I've got a slightly different approach to many people for content. The first step is, don't write new content. I don't mean ever. I mean, don't write new content purely for the purposes of SEO. It's more about, for the most part, it's more about making better use of what you have. If you've got a very small and young website, 10, 15 pages or less, you probably need to create content. But most of us have got more content than we need. It's just a matter of using them correctly, using the right pages. And again, Google gives us everything we need to find the right pages. So we go to Search Console, go to Search Analytics. What we're looking for, interested in keywords, will show clicks, positions, position and impressions, and we're looking for keywords with a high number of impressions and very low clicks. Now in their interface it's horrible, so it makes a lot more sense to download it into Excel or whatever you use, and then for instance filter by greater than 250 impressions but very few clicks. So these are real low-hanging fruit. These are the phrases that you're showing up for, probably got a low position, they're relevant to what you're selling, they're great opportunities. 2nd step, if you absolutely have to create new content, it's another seed. This is, I think this is the most powerful technique, and most people overlook this completely, dismiss it as common sense. So when most people go to Google, we search for something, and we search as a searcher. We literally look at what's on the monitor as a person looking for the answers. There's a different way of using it when it comes to SEO. So imagine you've got a product. It makes no difference what the product is. It could be a book, it could be SaaS, it could be desktop software, something to do with finding family trees. So I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to carry out the search, find my family tree. But instead of looking at this information as a searcher, we're going to just nudge it a little bit to the side, tilt it, and then we're going to step into these results looking at the same information through the eyes of an SEO. So the first thing I'm interested in is that people also ask. This is Google giving me more ideas. So I did a search for find my family tree, and they talk about how do I trace my family tree. They're talking about ancestry. These are great ideas. Obviously look at the sites themselves. You don't need to reverse engineer them, but why are they ranking for these phrases? The search is related to at the bottom. This is seriously useful. If you can find one of those terms that fit in, that you can slot in seamlessly into your own content, you've got your search term, find my family tree, and Google are giving you ideas for languages related to find my family tree. So if you use both, it's kind of reflecting Google's ideas back at them. And it really, really works. Obviously, you also get the very basics idea. You get some page type, look at the titles in the actual listings to get some more ideas. There's a scene in one of the Matrix films, I can't remember which, everyone knows this scene, where for the first time Neo sees the world not as we see the world, but he sees it through the eyes of the Matrix. And he sees it as green data, because that's what data looks like, right? Actually, it's like the back of the room right now, I think about it. And this is the only part of SEO that's in any way related to a good sci-fi film. But this is extraordinarily powerful. Don't dismiss it as being obvious and common sense. Give it a go. Once you've got the ideas, you run them through Ahrefs, you build your keyword list, and so on. You might think, but where do I start? You've got no idea where to start for those seed phrases, if you like. If that's the case, two ideas for you. One is Reddit. There's a subreddit on every topic you can imagine. And you go there and you pick out ideas. Look at the language, look at the themes, look at the pain points that people are talking about. Joanna Weeb, a few years ago from Copy Hackers and AirStory, she shared this great technique, Amazon mining, I think she calls it. She finds a book related to the topic, and then she quite systematically analyzes the reviews. It's not the book itself, it's the reviews, and this means she stores this information, and it's a way of getting into the heads, into the mindsets of the people searching for what it is that she's trying to sell. Looking for the pain points, the ideas, the themes, the common language points. Most importantly with keywords, this is why I spent so much time talking about keywords. If you run something like AdWords, if you have an idea for a bunch of keywords, set up a campaign or an ad group, drop them in, give it 48 hours, you're done. You'll find out, should I explore this? Should I pull the plug? SEO, it's different. You could even spend in the region of 15 hours creating new content, 5 hours optimizing it, 2 hours publicizing it. You can wait 9 months or longer. And this is a really important point. You don't want to optimize for your keywords now, invest all that time, and 12 months from now go, great, we're in first place. Bad news, 2 people a month search for this. Fourth task is to use the right tools and to use them correctly. I had to put that in because that hurts me every single time I see that. So quickly flying through the tools, I used to recommend Keyword Planner in AdWords because it's free and it's better than nothing. I won't bore you with the details why, but they round up all the figures, and from an SEO perspective, it's useless. Don't use it, it's actually quite misleading. If you don't want to spend any money, you've got Search Console. Search Console actually has more actionable data than almost all paid SEO tools. It's a phenomenal resource. My tool of my tool of choice for SEO nowadays is Ahrefs. They no longer have a free trial, but you can get a 7-day trial for $7. You can do a lot in 7 days. Even if all you're going to do is spend a couple of hours one afternoon carrying out some keyword research, it's phenomenal what you can find. Other tools we use, Screaming Frog. It's not overly cheap. It's about $200 a year. This is desktop-based software for Windows and Mac. It crawls the whole of your website, sucks out all that information, or your competitors' websites. Sitebulb is a tool that most people aren't yet familiar with, apart from SEOs. It's more expensive, but you can pay for a monthly basis, monthly license at about $35. This is kind of like Screaming Frog, but better. Instead of sort of vomiting a tsunami of data, it does more hand-holding and says, this is an issue, this is a problem, this is an emergency. If you really want to get your hands dirty, URL Profiler, we use this a lot for link auditing, content auditing, semantic analysis, all the real fun parts of SEO. All these tools do ultimately is give you a lot more hands. However, SEO tools don't do SEO for you. And signing up for a whole load of SEO tools doesn't do any more SEO for you. The only reason I say that is if your first step in starting SEO is to sign up for the next AppSumo deal, I think there is one today actually, for an SEO tool. It's a good deal, but it's not going to do this work for you. You have to invest the time. The fifth task is to feed the mobile index. We're tight for time, so I can't go into details. There's a great change that started to unroll in Google. They're moving to mobile-first indexing, not mobile-first index. Google get very upset at that. What it's about, the whole of the index eventually is going to be based on the mobile version of your website, probably. If you're not mobile-friendly yet, it's not too late, but you really do want to start moving on this. They wrote about a blog post in November last year where they talked about this as an experiment. And March 26th, they said that they wrote another post about that, rolling out mobile-first indexing. True to form to Google, it wasn't double speak, it was quadruple speak, and it's confusing and it's frustrating, but you want to jump through these hoops. It's a pretty important change. I'd say it's probably the biggest change that's happened in SEO in my 20 years of doing it. Two final thoughts about mobile. First is it's not an afterthought. Now there's two common mistakes that I see. One is people look at their analytics and they say, well, we only get 4%, 5% of our traffic from mobile, so we don't care about mobile. You might only be getting 4 or 5% because your website is so horrible from a mobile point of view that Google aren't sending people your way. The second point is, of course, they're moving to mobile first indexing. This is something that has to be dealt with. The other common mistake is to say, our template is mobile friendly, or your website designer swears it's mobile friendly, it's responsive. Responsive and mobile friendly are two different things. There's an overlap, but not always. Google have a mobile friendly test that you drop in a URL, and it basically, hopefully you'll see a green thumbs up effectively saying mobile friendly. Can you see in the top left, there's a page loading issues? Don't worry about that. I ran Google through their mobile friendly test and they fail on that score as well. They also have a page speed insights. It's not always not just a binary yes or no with mobile. Sometimes there's improvements that you can make that will have a big impact. So you drop in a URL to the page speed tool. This URL is on the page I'm giving you at the end. And it gives you not only a score, but exact, very specific advice for what to actually do about these issues and how serious they are. Final bonus tip is to always put humans before spiders. What do I mean by that? We've all had the experience at some point that we go to Google, carry out search, click on the results, and then we land there and think, what on earth is this about? We've all had that experience, right? So I could decide after today that this has been so flattering for my ego that this is what I'm going to do. I am going to be an SEO speaker. So I'm going to go home, I'm going to write a blog post about SEO speaker at conferences and events, and I'm going to repeat it over and over again because that's how it works. In the very highly unlikely event that even ranks, what's going to happen when someone lands on a page like that? They're going to bounce. And as we know, bouncing is one of the worst signals that you can send to Google. So to wrap it up, the seven rules of SEO. First rule of SEO is you don't talk about SEO. I didn't think anyone would get that. I thought you were all too young, so I'm gratified. Second rule of SEO, fix the machine. It's not just about looking good, it's got to work well behind the scenes. Third rule, invest time in keywords. It's a really, really effective way to get more traffic. Take a different approach to content, which is more use what you have rather than create new content. Use the right tools. I have used almost every SEO tool that's out there, almost. And I'm more than happy to talk SEO tools to anyone who wants to hear that sort of thing. Embrace mobile first. I would urge you, if you haven't already, check your website later on the Google's mobile friendly test. If you see you passed, find me at the bar tonight, buy me a drink and we'll toast your success. If you fail, buy me a drink and we'll toast a great SEO opportunity that you've just discovered. Either way, I'm going to win at least. And always put humans before spiders. The final point, these seeds that I chose, such a terrible way to illustrate them. These seeds, the idea of seeds, most seeds in nature end up somewhere in the wrong place and they just wither up and they die. Nothing comes of them. But every now and then a seed falls in the right place and really, truly amazing things can happen. And I honestly do believe this is the right place for these seeds. I think you are the type of people that are actually going to give this a go because your competition are going to celebrate if you don't. It really works. The only reason I still get excited about SEO, and this is me excited, by the way. The only reason I get excited about SEO is because it works. It just carries on sending people to your website who want to buy what you have. Wrap it up with a picture of my dog, Lucky, doing the best impression ever of the late, great Freddie Mercury. And as promised, there is the URL with all the information you need. Thank you.
So that's where that bit.ly link went. I was wondering who took it.
I've gotten all the way through to 2025.
Time for 2 questions. Awesome, squatter.
Oh, I should have mentioned, by the way, on that page, that URL, There's never enough time for people to ask questions. I tend to get a lot of emails afterwards. I put a link on there where you can actually book a call with me. It's not a sales call. You can just schedule some time. I'm doing it in US friendly time, so Dave unfriendly time, so I'm going to be working a little later than usual. It's only for a week, it's only for next week. So if you have questions that we don't have time for today, or you don't want to ask them in public, just book a call with me over there.
When you go to book the call, try to find the most inconvenient time in the UK to book that.
I'm so jet lagged, I won't be sleeping anyway.
Sorry,
not for
Dave.
well.
All right, two questions.
So when content does, you get a 404, what's the best way to signal to Google that that's no longer there? Do you redirect it? Do you put a 410? What's the best? And the second question is, post or lightweight content, should you not index those?
Okay, the first question, you're about a page or a post that's no longer there.
Right.
You just completely eliminate it like it's old or not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
I would either, best case scenario, is redirect it to the closest fit. So if it's about, I don't know, how to do SEO, you could redirect it towards something that talks about social media because SEO is dead, as we know. The second question, what was the second question again?
Like lightweight content, say you have a blog post on release notes that's not really, do you just not index that?
Yeah, if it's that small, Google are fairly good at figuring out what to index and what to not, but they're not great. And you have what's called a crawl budget. They're not going to pay attention to everything you do, so you don't want to waste that budget. The way to do that, by the way, isn't with robots text. If you put in a URL or a whole folder, a directory in robots.txt, all that does is tell Google not to go there initially to crawl. But if you've got a link on your website that's pointing to it, they're going to crawl it. So the only way to block it is to put a no index tag on the page.
All right.
If that helps. I can't see anything.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. We have one more question, and then we will, everyone else, I see there's more than one hand up. Dave is around for the next couple days, so please grab him at lunch or in the evening.
Hi there. You mentioned about reusing content, and you said something around going into the Search Console and finding things that have high impressions and low clicks. But what was the exact tactic? Can you unpack that a little bit? I didn't quite get it, but I'm very interested.
So if you get a list of all the pages where you've got a lot of impressions, very few clicks, probably it's because a low average position, usually. If that's the case, this is a great opportunity. Like if you're thinking, what can we do, how can we use this content better? Assuming the content's relevant, you want Google to find it. That's a page or that's a post that I think is worth time investing in actually doing the keyword research and carrying out some actual SEO.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much,
Dave. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.